Hi, welcome. So, in this video, we are going to continue from where we ended in the previous video. Because in the previous video, we successfully installed my SQL workbench. And then in this video, we are going to see some of the basics of the SQL language. Remember, MySQL is just one of the databases, the relational databases. There could be Postgre, there could be Oracle, there could be others, Microsoft Server. So MySQL is just one of them. But we are trying to understand the general SQL syntax. So we're going to look at the basics, and then we see how to write simple SQL queries and commands, so that from there we can build on to the other very specific commands that are related to querying data, getting analysis from data. So let's just go straight, and then we explore the workbench and see how SQL is supposed to be written. So we are here now. So we installed workbench MySQL. So if you haven't installed it, just watch the previous video, and there we showed you how to install workbench and get here. So we also installed a couple of examples like this. These are databases. So here, if you come here, you see schemas. So if you install your workbench, you might appear here on the administration side, and then these are for server status, client connection. So this will not bother too much about this. We want to go straight to trying to do some of the things we have been doing in Excel in SQL. That's what the data analyst would do. So SQL, remember, has lots of functionalities like we saw in the previous video. So you can always check that to understand about the DDL language, the DQL, the different SQL commands. So now this interface workbench again is not, there's Microsoft Server again, there is Postgre, there are different types. So we are trying to just understand the SQL inside, not necessarily mastering workbench in this our series. So we'll not bother too much about so many things that are going on here. We will just remember that here we are going to write our queries. This is where we write our queries, and then this is when we write it, we are going to get some output here, the results, and then we are also going to get the logs, which will give us like the errors here. So I'll just do that, and then we'll see that in a while. So then if you go here, you see the file, new model, query, recent, things like this. So you can always take time to go through these different tabs and understand what is going on here. But one thing we'll be looking at most often here is the create new SQL tab. So each time we create this, it's the new tab. So it's like the worksheets in Excel. So we are creating a new tab to be able to write our queries inside here. Let's say select star from whatever. And then when we select this now, when we query this, write our queries like this. The next interesting thing you want to use is this execute the selected portion of the script, or everything if there is no selection. So you can either select a portion and execute, maybe select a portion and execute, or you just click on it and then it executes everything that is written here. So this will be the main things that we'll be using, and then you can always save, you can always do several things here, but we'll just go along. But let's go gently for the beginners. So I'll just run this, and then we are going to get an error. So we'll come to that later. So let me just take this off, and then we'll come to that. So now if I go here, you see there are these databases here, circular, cyst, wall. So they come when you install workbench. You can just select them like we did in the previous video, and then they are just here for you to play with, toy data set for you to play. So now if I click here, I would see that there are tables. These are the different tables. There's the actor table, there's the address table, category table. These are different tables. And then here you have views. you have stored procedures, and then you have functions. So remember, SQL is really very interesting. There are lots of things. So you have all these in that database. Same as in this database, you have the tables, the views, the stored procedures, the functions. So for now, we have three databases here. So if I go into a table here, and then I take maybe the actor table, I right click, and then it's going to say select rows. I'll just limit this to 10. So normally the limit here would be 1,000 here. So, but let me just limit this to 10. And then I come here again, and then I click here, select. So as you can see, this is an example of a good SQL command or query. So it's saying select star from. We are going to look at select statement, but I just want you to understand the general how the SQL syntax is composed. So we have commands like this, which you see my SQL workbench already puts them in blue. And then now we have like the object that's like the database here. And so you have the database Sakila, and then we also have the table name actor here. So if, for example, it was address here, let me just change this to address. Yeah, address. This we have actor ID here. Let me run it again with this our button here. You see we have a different table here. So this is how a simple SQL query is written. And I could as well write this, let's say like this, select, then I go to star. Now I'm using small letters instead of capital letters, and then I want to maybe just put back the initial one, the actor here. So let me put the dot here, dot. Then I run this. So you see it works. There is the address here, and there is the actor here. So it runs all of this like we said. If, for example, I select just this one and I run it, I get just the address, because as we said here, execute the selected portion of the script or everything if there's no selection. If I select just this one and I run it, I get just the actor. So now what happens when I take off this semicolon here? So I see I already get an error here, which is saying that the select is not valid at this position. So it expected the EOF. So usually the EOF in most programming languages is a column, comma, or a bracket. It was not closed, things like that. So if I select this and I run it, I get the result just because it's this. It ignores this part up here. But the standard query is supposed to be with a semicolon, and then you have no trouble running your query. So we have both here. And so remember, there are times you might ignore them at the end like this. It will not be a problem, but in the middle like this, it will be a problem. So the semicolon is important, and knowing that it is case insensitive, which means you don't need to bother if it's capital letters or small letters or not. And then insofar as it is spelled, you'd run. And then even the spaces, so we could have the space like this, we could give spaces like this, for example. So, and then we run it, we'll still get the same result. So that's why some at times we want to be able to, we say it is good to put each command on each line for readability, because first it doesn't even bother about the line. So it could be something like maybe select, for example, star, then maybe from, and then maybe this one, for example, enter. So sorry, here. So we are like something like this could be a practice that would help, so that we know a select command was used. Let me take that back up. A from command was used. So somebody reading this would say selected something from. So it's a good practice to write like this in SQL. But then it is not sensitive to all of this. It will still work, but just for communication purpose, we want to keep the commands capital letters and then keep the rest small letters. So somebody says, okay, you used a select, you used a from, you used another select, you used another from. So it already is a good way to be able to communicate with others who are going to use your code, or even you who is going to look at the code somewhere down the line. So another thing now to note is that now that you know about the semicolon and you already know about the fact that it's not case sensitive and even space sensitive, so let us look at one other characteristic of SQL commands, which is understanding comments. So there might be times you want to comment out certain things or write a comment. So if you've used Python before, you can use the hash here. So like this, and then you say this, maybe this is my address, or let me just take something appropriate, my address from Sakila or whatever. So when you run this, you get it works. But if, for example, you didn't put the comment, you see you already get an error because that is not a code. And then you remember again, always look at the logs, because it says my address from this. You have an error in your SQL syntax, check the manual. So these logs will always guide you, and you always check here to see if there's green or you have this red, and then you try to read this to guide you on where the error is coming from. So here we know that the error is because we did not comment out this, because there's no my, there's select, insert, drop, but there's no my, so we can comment that out. So we could also comment out a certain portion of the code. Maybe there are many lines. We could comment this out by using in Python it will be a doc string, but here we can just use this. No, I think it starts with this one, the slash, then the star, and then you see everything here is like commented out completely. So I have to close it to be able to continue from there. So if I do like this, and then no, the star first, then so you do it the reverse way, you slash forward slash star, whatever you want to hide, then star forward slash. So if I run this, only the actor, this part gets run, because there's a comment here and there is this commenting out of multiple lines here. So it's good if you have maybe multiple lines in between, multiple lines, so that you just want to comment them out and let them not figure in your final result. So now you've understood some of the basics of SQL, which is the semicolon, the space insensitivity, the case insensitivity, and then also being able to comment out your code. So that's interesting. So as you can see, your results are here again, and then you can always have your files here, and then you can just click here, maybe save. So you can export this to maybe CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, for example, and then maybe you go to your let me just say here, for example, click here, and then maybe give it a name, address. That is that. Let's move on here. So if let's go to the next here. So the next thing is let's just see this database here. If, for example, you have this database here like we saw, let me just create a new query. Okay, I can close this one, just don't save, close this one again, close this one, don't save. I'll just close this, take it again. So if, for example, I go to here and I click like this, I'm going to get this query. Now the table here, there are times when you might want to just enter just this like this, but then if you are not pointing to that exact database, it will not be able to know where this actor is coming from, the table from which database. So if I run this query, for example, I'm going to get this error. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Check your manual that corresponds, because it's not getting exactly where this actor is coming from. So normally what is expecting is that I should double click, say like here, so that I can highlight this database like circular. Then I run this, and now I'm going to get the result. So otherwise, you always keep the database ahead so that you have that this reference. And then from here now, you can always run it, no matter, even if it's the word that is highlighted, you run it, you're going to get your direct response, because it's able to get the database, and then it's able to get the table in that database. So okay, so now I think you have some basic understanding of how the SQL syntax works, because you now know it's not case sensitive, it needs semicolon at the end, and then how to get comments, the spaces don't matter, and then you've been able to see that you can refer to the tables using the database dot table, and so that is the full name of the table. I hope you have been able to manipulate the workbench and just see a couple of things. See you next video. Wish you good data luck.